you are making a difference. Yeah.
Traditionally, mentorship has always been about somebody out there looking down at somebody down below.
If you want to encourage growth and personal growth, I think you always have to look at it from the perspective of four different lenses. I do what I believe makes sense for me.
When you have people who are there, across different sectors, in different age groups, criteria, in different stages.
Brings out also an element of continuous learning, right? Learning is, it's not an option. The newbies, they like to have smaller bites of learning, right? They don't like to sit in classrooms for hours together and so on. After COVID, a lot of us moved into virtual training, but there are some trainings which people prefer to have physical trainings, physically, the trainer being physically present, asking questions, interactions, and so on. Every day kind of, invent new things, new way of learning to keep up the organization, to the speed, yeah.
I liked how you gave that example of Gen AI, and sometimes that is not as easily, embraced by, say, a certain generation, somebody who hasn't necessarily experienced it, whereas, the millennials may be just growing up with it, so it's just part and parcel of their life as they see it today.
Yeah, I can give you an example. Yeah, sure. Interesting example. I have a reverse mentor. Just finished reverse mentor. I mean, I had a couple of reverse mentors till now, and the last one was, talking to me about educating me on technologies the millennials like. Yeah, and he was the one actually who introduced me to ChatGPT and the different versions which is available and how to generate some images. And it was really mind blowing, the sessions what we had. Multiple Gen AI and AI tools was introduced by him. And I'm really thankful now, because when I look back, I mean, I had a hesitation, should I use it or no? But the kind of efficiency and the, the productivity which it brings into certain topics is really huge, right? But I also personally had initially a mindset, should I use it for certain things or not? But when you sit with somebody who is doing it so quick, you yourself feel like, it's like an accelerated learning, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to ask you maybe kind of the other side of the coin story. Okay, one thing that is very difficult to actually teach, train, or showcase is culture. Now, both of you mentioned culture in your own ways about organization culture. What's the culture of the organization? How it has changed with respect to the different people who are there in the workforce. When you have the apprentices, you're 18 to 20 years old, or even people who come in directly out of campus, right? And that we have now what we call as either hybrid working, or some companies are still having remote working. And knowing that the culture of the organization is something that we want people to actually understand and embrace, because that's what gives us the longevity, the engaged workforce, so as to speak. So, Vinod, any thoughts about how do you actually, build that essence of the organization culture in the generation that's coming in now into the workforce, the millennials, and even beyond that, right? How do you do that, especially in a hybrid? Is it easy, or do you think there's another way to do it? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely not easy, and I don't believe that many companies have cracked it. I think there is a lot of work and a lot of effort being put into trying to figure out how to create and sustain and develop culture. I think it's, but I don't think I don't see many companies having cracked it. Of course, there are companies that have got, every company I believe has got certain bright spots where the culture is strong and the culture is actually sustained. And in the same company, there are other pockets where it's not that same. So I think for me, it starts with leadership. It really comes down to organizations where there is a certain continuity of leadership, and there is a certain role modeling or leading by example of the behaviors that make up the intended culture. That is the key, because many of the employees that I speak with, the good examples and the bad examples, the good examples always talk about they were able to embrace the culture of Siemens Energy because they saw their leaders, their supervisors, their managers, their more experienced employees living, behaving, and embodying that culture. And in those pockets of the company where things were not going well, the most common feedback was they see people simply talking, but not walking the talk. They see people just simply uh, artificially making it look like something is happening, but there is no authenticity behind it. So I think a big part of my focus these days is really to, and that's also why, for example, 2 weeks from now, every 8 weeks I have an all managers call, because in the wind business we have about 2,500 managers, and so I need to make sure that these managers understand that they are the culture carriers. They, together with also, a lot of what Latha mentioned earlier, is also what we have in terms of our key experts in engineering, our key experts in manufacturing, our key experts in project management. So there are people who are the culture carriers. These are the people that the rest of the organization looks up to or is constantly observing. And if these people are then embodying the elements of the culture we want, then I think it is easier. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier for the rest of the organization to follow through. There was a study that was done a few years ago to see, okay, what are the most important factors that create engagement and a strengthened culture in an organization? And they studied a lot of companies. And interestingly, there were 4 factors that actually were very much common to all those companies that had a strong culture, plus leadership. So if I start with leadership as the foundational element of creating and holding culture, the other 4 factors were one we already talked about, which is wanting to be in an organization that has a purpose. So having a meaningful, purposeful company to work for. The second is to have a network or a community of people around you who are working in a way that represents the culture of the company, so the presence of a community. The third one was being able to contribute through your own subject matter expertise in the development of the company. And the fourth is then getting, however it makes sense for you as an individual, getting recognized and appreciated for your positive steps towards contributing or embodying the culture. When these 5 things go together well, then you have these bright spots in organizations where the culture is strong, people seem to be engaged, and they seem to be continuously improving, continuously keeping up with the best in class or leading the industry in their respective areas. And in other places where one or more of these 5 factors are not strong, then the culture path is very hard.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a common thread, especially, to my last question about hybrid, remote, etc., is how effectively you're able to communicate this through the organization, right? Any element that you're doing. And communicate could take different forms and different elements about it.
Yeah.
I think Latha was also talking about communication when she was first talking about it, in terms of having that common factor that kind of threads the organization together, and whatever is valuable, whatever you hold as core, to be able to percolate that down is also the key of it, right?
Exactly, and I think the ratio is a bit, unfortunately, very skewed, right? So it's the same. Like if I would, I'm pretty sure the number is not exactly correct, but it's down. The skew is correct. So it takes 7 or 8 good examples to move something forward, but it only takes 1 bad example to move something backwards. So when we talk about culture and communication, all it takes is a fraction of the management community of an organization to not represent the culture for the whole thing to fall apart. So people carry scars for years if they have been working for a manager who doesn't walk the talk and comes across as hypocritical or comes across as artificial. People feel it, people see it, and that is a huge counterforce to culture, which is why I spend a lot of my time, paying close attention to the managers, because it just takes less than, in my mind, less than 10% of the managers in an organization to demonstrate bad behavior or demonstrate not living up to the cultural aspirations of the company. It really undermines the good work of 90% of the others. And I think this is why it's so important to really bring it down to communication, consistency, role modeling. I think this becomes the key to culture.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Vinod. And I'm sure in all of our lives, in our experience, we have had those instances where that one wrong thing can actually trigger, almost flare up something so badly, and then it takes eons of work, ages of actions for it to kind of just get reversed or even erased from memory. It takes Herculean efforts to do that. Couldn't agree more. Latha, any perspective on your side? Because I do believe this culture is something that is, so important yet so difficult also in a certain sense. So anything that has worked for you from a continental perspective in terms of instilling it, making more part of the life of people as such, anything that has worked for you?
So I think I completely align with what Vinod mentioned. I think all organizations are moving in the same direction. And I also believe that the leadership has got the very, very important to play in how the culture is developed. And as you rightly mentioned, even a small deviation from that behavior can create a bigger dent into the culture of the organization. So I think one is instilling the right leaders with the right mindset and the right behaviors is very, very essential. Because I think it's only not from the very top leader that the culture of the organization gets set. It actually takes a lot of hands to build that culture. So we need to select those hands very, very carefully. That's number one. So the leadership pipeline, the potential, the evaluation, all that is very important. And other thing is, again, a constant communication is what is required. For example, we also have, the continental values that we believe in. Right from the time where somebody comes in from a new graduate to an apprentice to somebody who's retired, I think everybody has got it so much etched in the mind that even in the sleep, if you call them up and ask what are the values, I think you get to live it because it's instilled in such a beautiful way. It's not only through just PowerPoints, it is through exercises, it is through role plays, it's a multiple way of, demonstrating and also kind of refreshing it very often. Yeah, so that's very, very important. And I somehow feel that, the retention, the engagement and the passion that you see in an organization is very much driven by the culture of the organization. And the top leadership and the top leaders have definitely a big role to play in this. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. I know I'm kind of inching towards time, and I have two questions that I really want to get your perspectives on. Okay. During the course of this conversation, I think both of you referred to the different drives that are there, within the workforce that is there. So there have been traditional hierarchies, which people thought that, hey, I am growing because I am growing from one role to the other, one band to the other. And it's also, in a certain sense, more recently, it's about more fluid career paths. I'm enjoying this today. This gives me more variety. That's what seems to interest me. And hence, I want to have that flavor of doing different things as well. Within organization structures, right? Are we able to then orchestrate this in different ways, or are our systems and practices more more defined in terms of saying growth for the organization means going from one level to the other or taking on more skill sets? How are you able to manage this? Latha, I'll start with you in terms of saying how do you manage both the vertical or the horizontal part of it within the same groups? Is there a magic bullet for that?
You see, when you look from the business perspective, I think we need breadth as well as depth. So this is also a business need. It's not only the people's need, it's the business need. So that's number one. The second thing is that probably a decade back or maybe 2 decades back, we were talking about career ladders only. Yeah, which is up only, right? So we are now talking a lot about career lattices which are available. We are talking about horizontal moves, cross-functional moves, taking cross-functional assignments, cross-cultural assignments, cross-country assignments. All these cross kind of words have come in now. So it's not talking about a ladder alone, but we are talking about a lot of horizontal moves. And if you look at maybe the newer workflows, I think not everybody is hung up on a title. They are also, a lot of them also like to see value in what they deliver. What is my responsibility? What is my footprint in the product that is delivered? So I think people are also looking at career not only at the titles or the positions and the salaries, but also to look at what is the impact that they are able to create into the business and what is the value they are delivering. And so that way, I think it is, compared to the past, it is much more easier now to have these horizontal career paths, different options which are available. Somebody moving from technology to business to strategy to even purchase to HR. So there are a lot of people who actually does this full circle, and that's not for the title growth. It is for learning and to make them complete professionals, right? So these options are available and people are choosing it. And our organization promotes a lot of these. We have got this internal job rotation policies, which are, if somebody completes 2 years in an assignment, they're allowed to apply for any job across the globe. Yeah, and this has to be honored that in 3 months, they have to be, allowed to move to that location or job function. So that actually is a very, very strong practice that I've seen in Continental. And this is also helping people to stay engaged as well as to explore their own passion. But there are some people who tell that, hey, I want to stay in this area, in this domain, I want to be a deep expert, contributing in my own way because that's my passion, right? So it's possible. All ways are possible. And this multi-generation, the people with different kinds of needs, I think we are able to tailor many things. But if you ask me if we are there, we are not. It's an evolving process, a lot more to learn. When new sets of people coming in, new challenges also come in, we need to keep evolving there.
No, absolutely. Any difference or any other thoughts from your side, Vinod? Same question.
I think Latha's answer was very comprehensive and covers a lot of what we're also trying to do. The way I look at it is always kind of people, you need to have a structure. You need to have some kind of a structure to hold the company. But apart from that, I think what we encourage is a lot of what Latha talked about is the same approach in our company. And now what we are trying to do more and more is shifting to a project-centric way of working. So everybody has a home organization because you need that for some kind of a backbone or structure for people. But what starts to be emphasized more and more is the project. So the project becomes your vehicle. And so in a project, you can choose to go up a technical career path in which you are a key expert of some sort in different disciplines, or you can go in a line management career path, or you can go into a project management career path. And then we are not there yet, but the ideal would be that a key expert, a top level expert, is seen and treated the same way as a senior manager, who is seen and treated the same way as a project director. No difference. And then people can choose. Some people like to go on the expertise of a very core discipline. Others like to be working on a diverse range of projects, and then they can change functions, change locations, change countries, and then run the project. And others are happier being administrative line managers. And then you give them all options. And then, so for in our company, the first two are stronger. So line management and technical expertise is stronger. And now we are starting to strengthen the project, the project avenue also.
Excellent. Very comprehensive way of addressing it. And I think what I realized during the course of this conversation, and I admit I could go on and on because this is a immense learning, and I'm sure each of us have kind of learned something new in terms of what one organization is doing or how they have cracked something. So it's immense learning. I did want to ask both of you this question. If I kind of look at it, and as I was going through your bios, and I gave a very short introduction, right? I know made it into a 30-second. But when I did go through your bios, I mean, you have like spectacular track record. You could be the epitome of somebody growing in an organization, managing things through different generations, scaling ladders, be it vertical, lateral, whatever way we describe it. So role models, both of you, and my congratulations on that. When I talk about nurturing growth, right, I'm looking at nurturing growth across the span of all these people who we have, multi-generational, different cultures, aspects. I wanted to ask you something a little personal, which also gives me a perspective into this subject, right? So if you were to look back at yourself 25, 30 years, right, a much younger version of yourself as you were in that workforce, is there something that you would give as advice then, which would have actually helped you traverse this path any easier? Maybe. I don't know, because it seems pretty easy from what I have read. It seems that you've just kind of scaled one ladder after the other. But there are always challenges that are there as you scroll, as you grow, right? So a younger version of yourself, either yourself or somebody who is the budding Vinod or the inspiring Latha who's down there waiting to become the you in the future. Any advice for them, Vinod?
Wow. If I look back on my journey, I think the three things that have helped me a lot, which kind of evolved over time, is a very high level of patience, because I've been with this company from the time I was a student. So I've been in this company for 28 years now. So patience. The second one is saying yes to opportunities more than saying no. And the third is detaching from the outcome. So the interesting thing is every job that I applied for, I never got. And every job that I got, I never applied for. And so it's like recognizing that, so what I would tell my younger self is to be patient, and it's not about, and I think Latha said it very nicely, it's not about a ladder. It was never about a ladder. I've seen a lot of people who burned out on the way up a ladder. But if you really look at this as a lattice, or the word I used to use, I like the word lattice, it is much more elegant. The word I used was a jungle gym. So if you see your career as a jungle gym, it contorts you. You have to get into all kinds of contortions postures, and it's not easy, but it's fun. So have fun, be patient, and see your career as a lattice or a jungle gym, depending on what your preference of choice is.
That's beautiful, Vinod. I think even for me, the visual imagery of that is spectacular. Vinod in the jungle gym. Congratulations. Latha, the same question to you.
Yeah, I think a little bit similar. There are some overlaps for sure. So the one thing I feel is I always tell is that, this is a marathon. This is not a set of short sprints. So you need to have the energy, the passion, the drive to run a marathon. Yeah, so you need to treat it like that. And there's not too many short wins. Don't focus on the short wins. The second thing is continuous learning, because everything around you is changing, whether it is people, technology, business models, everything is changing so much. So continuous learning. And the third is compassionate. Be compassionate, yeah, and be genuine, be authentic in everything that you do and to the people that you work with.
Thank you. That was very beautifully summarized. And it's like it's nice, both of you had these elements of grit, patience, very, very human traits. But there's always that human element also that is there. Be it compassion, be it, like detaching from the outcome, be more in terms of what you're doing. Thank you so much. I think I tremendously enjoyed this conversation. I think your responses were straight from the heart, so genuine, so authentic. For anybody who listens in with the intent of learning to the point of continuous learning, learning agility, I think this can be immense life lessons to take forward. I want to congratulate both of you and also thank you and wishing you continued success in the careers that you've chosen and the roles that you play. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you,
very
Sonia,
much.
and thank you, Latha. It was a pleasure being on this session with you, Latha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both of you and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.